Hi everybody. It is November 16, 2023. Hello, Analog Synth Player and TFL War and Liddy London and Darren James Spencer. Hi. Sherry Hughes, as always, thank you. Mike Luft, Tom Tamata, At a Time, James Motley, Donna Davidson, hello everybody, Cynthia Johnston. So now I know, Haska Sun, Schmoody Cat, Rick Yorkin, Itena, Laura Larson. Hi. So, I'm going to start right here.
Just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor.
This is a very old video, and just in case some of you have not seen it, I will link below to it. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but yes, weather modification became very easy for the very evil elite.
If you can't hear what I'm saying, I couldn't even hear myself. This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive. And as it turns out, the cleanest. Now, the most amazing thing is that that cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain. I told you. It's raining. That's unbelievable. Oh. NASA's playing God. It's making its own weather.
It lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world. The president upon...
Yeah, well, that's exactly what they're doing. So I'm going to play a few minutes of JWTV. I will link below to his video posted sometime yesterday. But he's got some interesting information that I want to share with you, just in case you haven't seen it.
Wherever this ash plume goes. There's another scenario here on this map with Mount Etna erupting. If Mount Pelee was to erupt with it, the coastline will have 90 days to evacuate.
Achievement is that the scientists, the Chinese scientists, were able to actually make effectively a force field and contain that very hot plasma for almost 7 minutes.
But the bigger question is, the CME that was it activated by a fake solar flare or artificial sun solar flare? You know, behind the scenes of all this, while nobody was paying attention, they came out and talked about how they're going to use the artificial sun for climate change.
It is a tricky business, and when people hear about fusion and they hear about the power that's at the center of the sun, obviously people are going to be concerned about safety. Obviously, talk about that, and how far away are we from this actually being used to fight climate change?
It only works if it's very dense. And so that means you have to keep all of the nuclear fuel in one place. If for some reason the force fields break, what happens is it just kind of dissipates, and it can't be dangerous at all.
And we're supposed to just believe that, oh, it's just safe and effective. Why do you think we're so stupid? I mean, it's a lot of dumb idiots out there, but I know you ain't stupid. If you look up I-tier, you'll find that U.S. and multiple other countries are invested in it. And that's why the Chinese artificial sun, the biggest one, is so important. And that's why in San Francisco, Xi Jinping is meeting in California right now, and they're expanding their game plans.
Ready, close. Ready for face. Forward.
Look at these old washed up communist scrubs. Like, and look at this situation right here. This dude right here looks like some type of Chinese agent who is in San Francisco right now. The Raytheon contractor that worked in Antarctica, the directed energy weapon, said we were under attack, and now it looks more like that right now.
LA Fire says the heat from the flames could easily have exceeded 12 cars stored under the freeway were scorched. Wood pallets, lots. LA City Fire Engine 17, one of the first.
Here's a video right here of somebody on the ground showing you that the California I-10 freeway is completely shut down. Why would they do that? Would it be strategic because you need to stop people from getting in or out? There's another bridge that collapsed recently earlier in the year, you know? And so, like we said, at large, they're still looking for this person who pretty much did an arson attack. We said that it was probably somebody who did this. In New York, they just shut down the Amtrak from New York to Vermont. And it's like, why does this happen? Infrastructure attacks? Big question.
I want to emphasize that we are currently in a state of war that people aren't realizing, and I've confirmed this. World's largest directed energy weapons system. It is responsible for the earthquakes in Christchurch, New Zealand in 2011 on the front end of the year.
So earthquake technology, laser technology, and look, all the birds just washed up and died in October, November. People haven't even been hearing about it. But you wonder why that's happening. And I looked deeper into this because this has been happening more recently than not, right? Have you been noticing that? And I found something that is really interesting. And they keep saying, oh, all the oxygen is being absorbed by the ocean. These fishes are suffocating. And they give you their scientific reasons, but they never cover this one. The Army saying that we're going to control carbon, and that's not the only fish they're going to control. And they say we're going to use sound waves to hit them. And that frequency can pull the oxygen right out of the atmosphere. It's proven fact. Cell towers do the exact same thing. In California, recently, came out with just an X-ray laser, one of the world's freaking more powerful ones. And on a quantum level, with this laser, look at here, they keep us at negative 456 degrees. We're talking cold as Antarctica. And they're basically looking at the entire world on a quantum level. They can see events, they're saying, that they can scan. The laser in question is LINAC coherent light source. It's able to produce up to X-ray flashes every single second. That's 8,000 more than the original laser. That means, and check it out, it can capture process much more detail at an atomic scale. Perhaps the process that have never been properly observed from there by studying quantum events at higher resolution than ever before. Quantum events. We're talking stuff that's in reality. You know what?
Yeah, we've got an awful lot going on. And thank God for people like JWTV that digs into all of what you just heard and far more. And I'm
Else
going
is
to
interesting.
put his channel link in. Where is it? In the chat. If you don't know JWTV, I recommend you check them out. Okay. So, Cecilia Amirati, hello. Carol, every single time I subscribe to your, I don't know what that, something YouTubes, you get unsubscribed and never get to see the full video. Also, I have not gotten alerts for you in months. Yeah, well, everything is getting worse, so I'm not surprised. Though I will say this, as I have said it numerous times, you can't count on your notification bell to notify you. You cannot count on alerts. I'm pretty consistent with posting every night at 5. So, but go to the channel page, the home page of the channels that you like to check out if they have posted a video. I mean, really, that's the only way that you're going to be sure that you're actually seeing new information. So, and to all those that I haven't said hello to, hello. I just jumped right on in today. So, thank you, JWTV. And this economy of ours, industrial production plunges in October as automaker strikes hit. Okay. Manufacturing has pretty much been decimated in our country, which means that we couldn't possibly have a good economy. Those who have good economies are actually producing things. We have bubble. It's just a bubble waiting to burst. The debt bubble. Everything's a bubble, bubble, bubble. Well, that's a problem of mine too, Cecilia. I can't remember the names of channels as well. Yep. I understand. So, Walmart crashes. On disappointing guidance warns that consumer spending is deteriorating. Wow. Do you know that the Biden administration, they're all still lying about the economy? They're all still claiming that our economy is strong? They are. So Walmart consumer spending is deteriorating. What is that telling you? We are in for it big time. Walmart, Costco, and other companies rethink self-checkout? Really? Oh. At a time when our economy is just completely broken, consumer spending deteriorating, do they think that if they bring back cashiers that there's going to be consumer spending? I don't know. But they did this in a supermarket in the UK, in England. Do we ever say England anymore? England. So, I don't think that that's going to make a difference, though a lot of us who don't like self-checkout, we sure would appreciate going back to the old ways when we actually talked to the cashier, which I enjoyed. The entire Walmart here, the entire Walmart is self-checkout. They actually run it very well, I have to say, but the entire, it'll be funny to see if they go back to cashiers. Anyway, I was sent this. I did videos on the labs. I can't remember her name, but an investigative journalist who did brilliant work on U.S. labs in Ukraine And the experiments that, of course, they did not tell the people in the communities that they were doing these experiments, and many got very sick, and the water got, very toxic, and that's what we do. USA, USA, USA. Well, I will play just a few minutes of this video, but I did post the link in the channel. If you don't know about our US labs, you might want to check it out.
Research that would lead to the creation of bioweapons. And at the end of the day, either the bioweapon is at risk of falling into the wrong hands, or a mistake in the lab would lead to the spread of the bioweapon, which could be a virus or a pathogen, thereby endangering innocent people who do not know what is going on. And when the citizens are infected with the virus, the government will be trying to cover up their mistakes. Now, one thing that would probably go through everybody's mind is, why would a government engage in researching and creating something that is dangerous not just to its citizens, but to citizens across the world? Which national interest are they protecting? Well, one country that needs to answer this question is the USA. Now, if the USA had all its biolabs in its country, then that wouldn't be our business. But research has shown that the USA is the only country in the world that has biolabs in all the regions of the world, including Africa. In fact, it is reported that the US has over 30 biolabs in Africa and over 400 across the globe. Can you imagine that? 400 biolabs. Why do they need so many biolabs in Africa? What are they researching in these labs, and how do African governments allow the US to set up so many biolabs across the continent? These are questions that need to be answered. Since the beginning of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, it has become indisputably clear that the US has been involved in creating and developing biolaboratories throughout the world. The first US biolabs were established in Africa in the late 1990s to fight AIDS and malaria. But like we said earlier, the numbers have increased to over 400 units. When asked, the US would say that they are researching biological threats to the world and finding solutions to fight these threats. But in reality, they are simply using this as an excuse to research and create bioweapons that they can add to their already long arsenal of weapons. Just last year,
and that is exactly right. Yeah. Put the link in again. And the owner of Chinese biolab busted in California linked to CCP military program. What a surprise, right? What a surprise. Chinese owner of a makeshift biolab discovered in a remote California city has ties to the People's Republic of China and a Chinese military program. Well, China, Russia, America, Israel, UK. Can't say, I'm not going to say the UK, but the other countries, I'm sure they all have biolabs. Arrested in October for distributing misbranded medical devices and lying to the FDA. Zhu, Jiabei Zhu, Chu, I don't know, 62 years old, lab located near Fresno, California. Discovered serendipitously when a local code enforcement officer noticed a garden hose attached to the facility. That's all it took? That led to the discovery of thousands of vials. Some labeled in Mandarin, others in a undeciphered code. Wow. The inaction by the FBA. Oh man, I'm not doing very well tonight, sorry. Inaction by the FBI and CDC in this matter, as reported by the committee, is perplexing and concerning. Oh, looky here. So, yeah. You know, when you think about all of the evil that is going on all over the world, how do you possibly rein that in? You need the people to come together, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen much. So, this is interesting. Biden and Xi. This looks like the White House, but it could be somewhere in California. But you've got a Marine holding the flag of China. It's the flag of China. Now, I'm not surprised. San Francisco, you've got an awful lot of Chinese Americans. But really? A Marine holding the flag of China. So, what is that about? Well, I think it's called treason. But what do I know?
President, after today, would you still refer to President Xi as a dictator? This is a term that we used earlier this year.
Well, look, he is. I mean, he's a dictator in the sense that he is the guy who runs a country that is a communist country that is based on a form of government totally different than ours.
President, after today, would you still...
So once the president of China leaves, you got Biden up there calling him a dictator. The Chinese are not very happy about it. And of course, you know, Biden went on to talk about the differences between their country and our country. And there really are very few differences today. That's what's really sad. So, yeah, Biden lying again. Here, China decries Biden's off-script dictator Xi comment as extremely wrong. Biden calling Xi a dictator, which it should be emphasized, was said while Xi was literally still in San Francisco. Oh, okay. But not just near Biden. Slammed the spokeswoman Mao Ning slammed the remark as irresponsible political maneuvering, and likely there is much more condemnation out of China to come. And this could only be the beginning. And so many hoped for a really good meeting with Xi, maybe have some peace talks. It's all a staged affair. I'm going to play this 4-minute clip here, Lily Tang Williams, on the Sean Ryan show, where she actually is talking about Xi, he being a dictator, he bringing in Mao 2.0.
So, if they know the real history, if they know what happened to us during Mao's Cultural Revolution, you would think history should not repeat. But today's China is already in Cultural Revolution 2.0. The Chairman Xi wants to have common prosperity. So that's why you look at his policies, that he took over basically lots of private huge industries and companies. A billionaire, Jack Ma, was forced to retire, also disappeared for a few months because he dared to criticize China regulators on economy.
Didn't the CEO of Alibaba disappear too?
That's him, Jack Ma.
That's him?
That's him, Alibaba CEO. And his company also was told cannot go public in Hong Kong. Say, how could a private company get so rich? It's, of course, there's a power struggle. I heard that, lots of companies, billionaires got rich under Jiang Zemin, the, former president, and Jiang's faction and the Xi's faction are constantly fighting each other to gain power, to gain control. So when Chairman Xi came to power 2012, it's 10 years now, that's why he's subject to another third term coming in the fall. He changed the China constitution to allow unlimited presidency. But when he become...
He's the one that changed that?
Well, so-called voted by 99% 99% and people of Congress, which is Robert Stepp, People's Congress. China's constitution says all Chinese parties are under dictatorship of China's Communist Party. Read that. So, but under Deng Xiaoping, he did say we should have term limit. So then limit himself to 2 terms or 5 years, 10 years. And same thing happened to Hu Jintao and Jiang Zemin. But Xi come to power, he got rid of that. So people should know that. Why? We call him a New Mao. Liu Mao.
He's that bad.
He's a hardcore communist. And so even celebrities were quiet now in China. All the YouTubers, celebrities, famous actors, and billionaires and millionaires got rich from past China's limited free market capitalism and allow private industries and private enterprises. And they were kind of staying low file, keep their head down now. And sometimes they disappear. China is famous for disappearing people. In my row house community housing courtyard, I heard 2 neighbors disappeared. Their family never find out what happened to them. I don't know what happened. I was a child. But my dad told me, yeah, they're gone. They went to a business trip, they're just gone. And the people still disappear today in China. And there are dark prisons called prisoners of conscience.
That's something that you can look forward to. More and more people disappearing here in the United States. More and more, I say, because they are already. CDC announces expansion of airport surveillance, what it means for you. Yeah, they'll increase airport surveillance for respiratory infections. These are statements from the federal agency and private partner, public-private partnership. That is fascism. Private firm Ginkgo Bioworks is expanding its work with the CDC's traveler-based genomic surveillance program to test for more than 30 additional priority pathogens. In addition to that virus that caused that COVID. Flexible, multimodal platform that consists of 3 complementary approaches of sample collection from arriving international travelers at U.S. airports, including voluntary nasal swabbing, aircraft wastewater, and airport wastewater sampling to enhance early detection of COVID variants and other pathogens and fill gaps in global surveillance. So we have the World Health Organization ready to take control. We've got more airport surveillance. got more biometric surveillance. I hope you're all ready for this world. That's going to hurt. I will link below to this video that was sent to me by a subscriber. The the son of a founder of the World Economic Forum. He talks about his father's relationship with Klaus Schwab, and in the early years it was good, but then his father jumped ship because he realized that Klaus Schwab was turning into a monster. But let's just listen to a few minutes of Dr. Kelly Victory.
I want to delve a little bit further into this issue with the WHO. I have been speaking, I know very little about the WEF, and I think most Americans, frankly, don't. It's perceived as this entity, this very powerful entity of rich people. The WHO, on the other hand, I am very open in saying, and I say it almost every show, that the WHO is fundamentally the long arm of the Chinese Communist Party. They are led by a former terrorist. They have nothing to do with health. They are absolutely nothing more than power mongers. And one of the wonderful things that Donald Trump did was to remove our membership in the WHO. And tragically, we have been reinvested.
Okay, that's where I have to stop it. He didn't remove membership. His announcement was that he was defunding. He wasn't going to be funding the World Health Organization. But he was funding Gavi, Bill and Melinda Gates' vaccine organization. And through Gavi was sending money to the World Health Organization. So you really do need to dig into what these people are doing to find out whether or not they're actually telling the truth. Okay, so I get so turned off when I hear things like that. And remember, okay, Operation Warp Speed, his announcement, our military is going to be delivering all of the vaccines. Didn't that need to be questioned? But once people have their belief, a wall goes up and they can't see clearly. Voter fraud operation busted in Massachusetts. You know, it's so funny that we can get our government officials to say that our elections are clean. Our elections, don't worry, there's no corruption, there's no fraud. And yet, mainstream media, other outlets, post on voter fraud taking place all over the country. Massachusetts. So, what do we have? A suspected case of voter fraud after 2 voters in the ultra-liberal immigrant city of Lawrence reported that someone had illegally voted in their names. One voter who didn't want to be identified told local news outlets that when he went to the polls to vote in the city's municipal election on November 7th, he was denied, with an official claiming he had already voted. With an absentee mail ballot, a second voter, Rosales Gonzalez, reported that an absentee ballot was mailed in her name and contained a forged signature. Meta allows Facebook and Instagram ads claiming 2020 election was rigged. People lost channels when they were disclosing all of the evidence, actually, that something was very wrong with the 2020 election. And they lost their accounts on Twitter, and they lost their accounts on Facebook. Even people who just mentioned that something might be wrong with the election in 2020, they lost their accounts, or they were suspended. On YouTube as well. And suddenly it's okay when we have the 2024 election coming up? What's going on? This almost feels like a trap for people. Or it's just to confuse the hell out of people, making sure that there's absolutely no consistency anywhere. So you never know. It's kind of like, wow, life has become just like you're walking in a field of landmines. You got to be very careful. But as careful as you are, your foot may just hit that landmine. It's what a lot of very narcissistic families operate in. You know, the scapegoat. Oh my God, I don't know if I say something, but I don't even know what might be wrong, but oh, boom, you hit that landmine and you're just blown up. YouTube is allowing it as well. Really? Okay. The updated policy allows political advertisers to claim that previous elections were rigged or stolen, but does not allow them to question the legitimacy of upcoming and ongoing elections? What? Meta officials reportedly made the decision based on free speech concerns after considering previous U.S. elections that were contested. Almost every presidential election, whoever wins, the other side contests. The other side says, no, we won. There was a lot of election fraud. But for some reason, 2020 was very, very different. Oh, that's right. January 6th, insurrection. That was orchestrated by the feds. YouTube made a similar decision earlier this year when it reversed its policy to censor content it deemed to be misinformation about the 2020 election. You never know. Even though they've updated their policy and now they're allowing this kind of advertisement or people saying, yeah, there was a problem with previous elections, but be clear that you're not talking about this election. Free speech. Free speech that has a, it's like a ticking time bomb. Thanksgiving travel to reach highest level since pre-COVID era. Everything's going up. Everything is going up. And yeah, the protests. Protesters gather during APEC summit, and it wasn't pretty.
And there was a heavy law enforcement presence all around San Francisco as protesters connected to various causes seemed to spring up all around the APEC zone. The biggest demonstrations targeted Chinese President Xi Jinping and led to direct clashes between those who want him gone and those who came to support him. At one point, the two sides faced off in a violent and bloody fistfight.
Everybody's fighting over something. Here we have at the Democratic National Committee headquarters. Okay, Capitol Police are now in riot gear. I guess no audio. Crash, whack, boom. Okay.
Get back! Get back now! Get back! Get back! Fuck you! Bitch! Get back! Get back, guys! Violent motherfuckers. It's some violent motherfuckers. I can shut my cameras off. Oh shit.
So the pro-Palestinian protesters showed up demanding a ceasefire, and by the looks of it, it looks like the police, I'm sure those in the Democratic Party demanded the police to remove them, and it looks like the police started an awful lot of this commotion. San Francisco, the protesters had shut down a major bridge. Dozens are shutting the bridge down on the Bay Bridge, demanding a ceasefire. And a whole lot of people are looking at all of these, the pro-Palestine protesters, as leftists, and leaving comments like, this is what our leftist education did. I wouldn't put it in that framework at all. I think people are just really tired of people being killed, innocent people being killed. So, yeah. I don't know how I feel about the protesters inconveniencing those who need to get somewhere. You sure don't win any people over to your side when you anger them and frustrate them when they need to get to work or something like that. It's kind of like the climate change protesters. It's just not a good tactic. But the activists, the young activists who have been, on that conveyor belt in public school to become activists, this is how they protest. Causing disruption, causing inconvenience, causing everything to stop. Considering what's happening in Palestine, it's hard to tell them how to protest, considering that this has been going on for over a month now. I want to read this. Can we reverse America's distemper? Distemper it is. Social trust, a baseline measure of social stability, has eroded. And eroded, yes. So you can bet that more and more violence, disruption is coming to all of us. A Hamlet-like loss of self-confidence with an apocalyptic sense of doom for the civilization on the right It embodies a conviction that the sensate culture is pushing the society down the Gadarene slope of drugs and fornication to destruction. On the left, there is the vague sense that America is imperialist, fascist-oriented, caught in inner contradictions of class and ethnic struggles, which will end in self-destructive wars or civil chaos. The fragmenting and polarization of institutions, family, neighborhood, university, church, nation. In short, the overloading of the social nervous system by sudden accelerations of change. Is that a reasonably fair description of America in 2023? Interesting. Everything that I just read was written in January 1974, describing the America of 50 years ago in a book, America Agonistes, Max Lerner, Foreign Affairs. So, I'm sorry, that was an article. I have often referred to Peter Turchin's evidence-based cyclical mapping of the structural sources of social disorder, which he has updated in his latest work, End Times, Elites, Counter-Elites, and the Path of Political Disintegration. Turchin identified 50-year cycles of integration in which people find reasons to cooperate, and disintegration in which people find reasons to devolve cooperation. From this perspective, that an article from 50 years ago sounds current is not only no surprise, it was easily predictable. So, Turchin's new book, Hope in End Times, his analysis of our coming collapse could help us avoid it. This is in the Salon article. If you care to read it, I will put the link in the chat. The Salon was another major betrayal, and I try not to go there. As if it matters. So, in Salon's article, for all its breadth and depth, there is a simple message at the core of End Times. At the heart of our problems, Turchin writes, is a perverse wealth pump taking from the poor and giving to the rich, and we have to find a way to turn it off. This reflects one of the most fundamental principles in sociology, the iron law of oligarchy. He writes, which states that when an interest group acquires a lot of power, it inevitably starts using that power in self-interested ways. For example, while wages fell far behind the growth of economic productivity from 1979 onward, Turchin cites analysis from the Economic Policy Institute indicating that 3/4 of that gap was due to elite-driven policy shifts, weakened labor standards, the erosion of collective bargaining, corporate globalization, and so-called fiscal austerity. Diminished economic conditions for the less educated were accompanied by a decline in the social institutions that nurtured their social life and cooperation. These institutions include the family, the church, the labor union, the public schools, and their parent-teacher associations, and various voluntary neighborhood associations. Back in America's previous cyclical crisis, Lerner identified the sources of decline in this way. Civilizations die not only of rigidity, failure to meet challenges, constitutional breakdown, they may also die of deep alienations and the erosion of crucial institutions. And Charles Hughes goes on and uses an example of how Americans got very, very poor. It's the perverse wealth pump. But I will tell you, it was all socially engineered. Yeah, that's what they wanted. The family, the church, the public schools, everything. To die. Communities. But it was up to us to reignite them. And this is very sad. 1 in 4 young people in the world feels lonely. What a surprise. No, not a surprise, because staring at your cell phone is not connection. Why did they deliver us into the cyber world? Because they wanted everybody to be disconnected, to have no real social ties. Because everything in the cyber world is not real. You create, you manifest real relationships with bonds to one another, with obligations to one another, with a loyalty to one another, through interacting with one another in the real world. In cyber world, relationships come and go real fast. And there's an awful lot of people that you can't really know until you actually meet them and interact with them in the real world. And you find out who they really are. So, yeah, a new study, The Global State of Social Connections, highlights just how prevalent loneliness is today. Interviewing people aged 15 plus, 15 years old and older, in 142 countries from June 2022 to February 2023, provides insight on the prevalence of loneliness in different age groups. 25% of respondents between 15 and 18 years old feel very lonely or fairly lonely. Even higher among those aged 19 to 29, with 27%, and which I find very interesting, respondents aged over 65 show a lower rate of loneliness, with only 17%. And that really is pretty surprising to me. And of course, the reasons for this loneliness have not been cited in this study, but the researchers are at it, trying to come up with reasons. Trust has pretty much been just eroded. When you don't have trust, you can't connect with people on a deep level. When you connect with people on a deep level, you don't feel lonely. You feel that deep connection. So, all of these young people growing up staring at a cell phone, you know, eating dinner with their family and everybody's staring at the cell phone, going to school and everybody's staring at the cell phone during their breaks, even in their classrooms. You think that was deliberate? Who could possibly think that these kids going to school, bringing their phones, which they can access in classrooms, was a good idea? It wasn't. Not at all. Yeah. I'm 68 and feel lonely because people around me believe in the government and the lies. I understand. I understand. I don't understand Hypocrite's Matrix. You'd rather be lonely than retarded? I didn't know that there was a connection, but whatever. So, Palestinians in parts of southern Gaza received notices to evacuate. So, they're now dropping flyers in southern Gaza telling people to evacuate. But they were just told to evacuate from northern Gaza to southern Gaza. So now they're having to evacuate. Where do they go? Where do they go? See, the cruelty of what is taking place now is so magnificent that it is absolutely shocking to see people who are demanding no ceasefire on what is taking place. I don't get it. I don't get this world. But listen to this. My God. All right. This was a post by Max Blumenthal, who, well, I hope you can hear it. I'm just going to play it out. Maybe you can hear, what is wrong with what this woman is saying, a spokesperson for the Pentagon.
You know, we do have information that Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad uses some hospitals in the Gaza Strip, including the Al-Shifa Hospital, as a way to conceal and support their military operations and hold hostages. They have tunnels underneath these hospitals. And so Hamas and PIJ members operate a command and control node from Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. They have weapons stored there and are prepared to respond to an Israeli military operation against the facility. So this is, I'm just telling you what we as the intelligence community assesses is happening in Gaza City, how Hamas is using these hospitals to operate. But absolutely, we do not want to see a firefight in a hospital where there are innocent civilians. Fadi.
Thank you, Sabrina. So you said earlier you don't have any forces on the ground, right?
That's right.
So I take it this intelligence assessment is gathered based on information provided by Israel?
Sorry, what I just read out, that's from our intelligence community.
So did you have any assets inside Gaza?
We have no assets or boots on the ground in Gaza.
So there's no gathering on the ground about this?
That's right.
So you have no one entering the hospitals to verify this information, right?
We have no boots on the ground in Gaza.
The question is, how was that assessment, how did you conclude that assessment based on information received from your Israeli counterparts?
Well, I'm not going to get into more specifics on how our intelligence is collected. What I can tell you is there are multiple agencies, as you know, here within the department and across the administration, multiple agencies that collect and assess and analyze intelligence, but I'm not going to go into any further details on how that intelligence is gathered.
You're confirming that you have no assets on the ground or assets entering to these hospitals to basically confirm the information you're sharing with us.
I will say it again, we have no boots on the ground in Gaza. Louis. I'm sorry, Jared, and then I'll come back to you.
What you just read,
Yeah.
That sounds different than it's more expansive than what Mr. Sullivan said yesterday. So am I correct in saying this is new information that you are providing to us?
Yep, that's correct.
New language that is being assessed by the U.S. intelligence community.
This is newly downgraded information that we felt was important to get out today because there have been a lot of questions about the hospital and how Hamas operates, and so it was important that to get out there for you all.
And to clarify on Fadi's questions here, so this is an independent U.S. assessment separate from the Israeli their own assessment, or is this information that they provided to you that then you've analyzed?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into more specifics on the intelligence. I can tell you that this is information that was downgraded and collected by the intelligence community.
Oh boy. First of all, military intelligence is the biggest oxymoron that man has ever established. We have no boots on the ground. No Americans are in Gaza, but somehow they managed to get intelligence on their own. They're not just repeating what Israel is saying. Somehow they managed to get that without verifying what the intelligence is. You know, that there are tunnels underneath the Shifa hospital, that's Hamas's headquarters. I don't think people really listen closely to what is being said. So, the only possible way that they got that intelligence is through the Israeli intelligence agencies, both of whom we can trust. Right? Right. And listen to this. This is amazing. Okay, David Friedman, former U.S. ambassador to Israel under Trump. Oh, this is just sweet.
It's been proven with certainty, that the headquarters of Hamas is under the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City. Now, you know what happened a couple of days ago?
Proven by
Hamas had a big one. Mark, are you going to let me finish?
I can't allow you to. I cannot allow you to say 15 things that are unfactual and not be challenged on them. I'm happy to let you talk, but I'm going to ask clarifying questions.
You're going to tell me what's factual? Mark,
yes, I spent
5 years of my life studying this, living it. When was the last time you were in Gaza, Mark? When was the last time you were in Gaza?
18 months ago. When was the last time you were in Gaza? When was the last time you were in Gaza?
A few years ago.
Okay, so you said Al-Shifa Hospital has been proven Hamas headquarters. What independent reference, what source, what investigation has proven that? Who has proven that it's an Al-Shifa hospital since it's been a proven fact? Who proved it?
So now we're going to get into this basic like Holocaust denying idea that evidence that Israel has shown is not valid. I mean, is that what
The question was, what independent source has verified that underneath the Al-Shifa hospital is Hamas headquarters? And he then says, what, are we going to get into Holocaust denying? Wow. That's pretty intense. Whoa, that's out of left field. How can you trust these people at all with what they're saying? Okay.
What are you doing? Do you deny that people were raped?
Everybody that challenges you is not doing Holocaust denial. You said that it's a Hamas headquarter. I simply asked you for evidence of it. I said who, and you immediately equated it to Holocaust denial.
Israel has presented evidence. Ask the CIA. Ask anybody who studies
the CIA,
this.
Sir.
Yeah. You don't trust the government. You don't trust the American government. You don't trust the Israeli government. Who should we trust? Hamas? You want to trust Hamas? Go ahead, trust Hamas.
Okay.
Is it wrong to not trust liars? Is it wrong to not trust your government that has lied to you repeatedly, whether it's the USA or Israel? Is that wrong? Is it wrong to want information coming out of these governments verified? No, of course it's not. But apparently, it's denial of the Holocaust. Wow. Disgusting. Sorry. This is just repulsive. Repulsive answers to legitimate questions that, yeah, I think at this stage of the game, when we all know the USA and Israel is really big on lying and just putting out a whole lot of propaganda, ask the CIA. They don't lie. Whoa. I don't... Okay, so Israeli deceit and the ongoing battle of Shifa Hospital. Biden defends Israel incursion into Al-Shifa Hospital against Hamas headquarters. That's from The Hill. And what Biden said on Wednesday, you have a circumstance where the first war crime is being committed by Hamas by having their headquarters, their military, hidden under a hospital. And that's a fact. That's what happened. Nearly 24 hours after the hospital raid, no command center, hostages, Hamas fighters, nor any arsenal is found. So The Hill quotes Biden. Politico says nearly 24 hours after the hospital raid, no command center, hostages, Hamas fighters, nor arsenal found. Though the Israeli military has posted videos on rockets and arsenal. And you can trust those videos. It's the IDF. The Israeli military has attacked and is occupying parts of Al-Shifa Hospital, the biggest and most modern hospital in Gaza, which has ceased to function normally because of lack of power, while tens of thousands of displaced Gazans take shelter in it. It's a clear violation of the rules of war. The Israeli Defense Forces is justifying it by claiming that Shifa has long served as civilian medical cover for a command center of the entire Hamas war operations. So, I'll post if any of you are interested in reading about all of the, the USA, Israel, they come out with their propaganda, and then you have the articles of all the people who are exposing the lies. The lies. The lies. Okay, many, and I'm very, very glad to see so many Jews are coming out, speaking out, finally, because more are speaking out. It gives courage to those who have been silent before. They feel they have support. It's very important on every issue that we are dealing with. You have to speak out because it gives courage to other people to speak out.
Is it anti-Semite to stand with Palestine?
No. I grew up in a Jewish family in America, and I have family that were killed by Nazis. And when we said never again, that means never again for everybody. And that includes the Palestinians. And when I hear Israel use dehumanizing language and slaughter civilians. It's just disgusting. And my heart goes out to Palestine. And I hope that Palestine can be free and live prosperous lives that all people want to live. Yeah.
So basically what you see, we have also, as well with us, Jewish people that is standing with Palestine and wish for a free Palestine. It's not about religion. It's about a nation that is getting killed by Zionists.
Yeah, it's an ethnic cleansing. The Nakba never ended. It's one long Nakba. They got driven out of their lands. I don't think there's been a time in my life that Israel hasn't been stealing people's lands. Gaza is 70% refugees. It's where Israel dumped all the people after the Nakba, and now they bomb those same people. And Gaza is basically a large concentration camp at this point. Most of the people are young. Barely anybody even has work. They live a little bit above the starvation point, and all they have all day is misery and destruction. I'm sure everybody in Gaza has a dead family member, and the idea that you can just kill more people and it will solve problems is just disgusting and needs to stop. Gaza needs to be free, and Palestinians have the right to self-determination. They have a right to a country. They have a right to live with dignity.
Yeah. If you can say some words direct to the people in Gaza, we really hope they see this video. If you can send a message direct to them, what would you say?
It's hard for me to imagine what you've been through. And I imagine that with a lot of what you've been through, there's nothing but anger left.
Thank you for standing on the right side.
Yes. It's only creating more and more anger, more and more animosity between the Palestinians and the Jews all over the world. Okay, remember this woman that I included in a live, but this video has been viral. It's got millions of views, and I'm going to play the video again, but this woman is now interviewed by Andrew Marr, or not the Andrew Marr Show. I will link below. It's 22.5 minutes, but everything that she is saying I think is very important for everybody to hear.
We unfortunately can't even find Israelis who defend Palestinians in that way. So no, we're not a better, we're actually worse. The sun is not coming off. You can arrest me. The sun is not coming off because that is the truth. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. No, it's not coming off. And it doesn't need to be. But somebody is never arrested. My husband, my friend's husband is Jewish. This woman is Jewish. This woman's family died in the Nazi Holocaust. This woman's family died in the Nazi Holocaust.
Obviously, the public and the common law have the right to peaceful protest. But that could incite hate towards a specific community.
That is not hate. That is the hate to protect the Israeli extermination of Gaza. And you know what is hate? Is to assume that Jews supporting it. That is hate. That is anti-Semitic for you to even imply that Jews support this Holocaust which is happening as we speak in Gaza. That's the truth. At the moment it is 1-1 nothing. I'm wrecking you on the No, shame on you. Shame on you. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this.
Arrested for wearing a sign. I believe in London.
So, I mean, that's pretty dramatic and shocking, really, to watch. Can you tell me what actually happened? Were you arrested?
Yes, I was arrested. I immediately went on hunger strike. And After 24 hours, I was released without charges. And I took the same very sign, I put them again on my body and stood outside this very same police station where they had me for 24 hours. They obviously, when they handcuffed me, they twisted my arm, which exacerbated an injury that I already sustained by somebody who seemed to be supporting the Israeli genocide of Gaza.
So you were in for 24 hours? Wow.
Yes.
Have you been in a prison or police station before like that?
No.
Never. Well, it must have been quite disturbing to be there then.
No, all I was thinking that here is it. I'm wasting my time and not being able to campaign against the slaughter of Gaza. And also I was preparing already my defense because I was going to defend myself in person. So I was already preparing my defense.
And they took your sign away, but then they gave it back when you had to leave.
Yes, they took. I had 3 signs. And they took all 3 as evidence against me, and they returned them to me when I was released.
Right. And obviously, we're keen. I can see the top line of the sign, but can you show us what the whole sign says? So it says, Nazi Israel, where I was born, wants you to be complicit in its final solution to Gaza. Terrorist state of Israel now demands the international community finance and support the expulsion of 2.4 million Palestinians into Sinai Desert, where they will be slowly exterminated like my family was by Nazi Germany. Wow.
And also this sign, I had this sign, I had it on my back, which I'm sure the police also saw, and that's the other sign that they confiscated and then gave it back to me when I was released, and I put it back on.
Right. Stop using anti-Semitism to enable Israel to genocide Gaza. Stop using the Holocaust, which exterminated my family, to enable Israel to exterminate 2.4 million Palestinians in Gaza. We Israelis live on the land stolen from the Palestinians by Zionist terrorism. I mean, those are strong, very strong words. And you were accused of sort of inciting hatred. I mean, you were very strong in saying that the anti-Semitism was coming from people who assumed that Jews support what Israel's doing.
The police. I was accusing the police. I was directly accusing the police that the very claim that this sign is anti-Semitic, that it is actually anti-Semitic to make that claim, because when they accuse me that this is against Jews, that assert that Jews are supporting the Holocaust in Gaza. No. Some, like every community, but Jews, there are Jews like myself and other people who totally against this Holocaust in Gaza.
So no, I'm very interested to hear. I mean, it says on the sign, obviously, you were born in Israel. So, I mean, how did you come to see that this was the case about Israel? I mean, when you were brought up, you must have been instilled with pride about Israel and national pride of some kind. What was it that made you see what you've come to see?
Well, I was subjected to the same brainwashing like all the other Israelis, but I did sense that there was something wrong and hidden, and I just didn't know where to look for it. And I was very lucky when I was actively searching to understand what. I just felt there was something in the background, and I knew it was nothing to do with me personally or my personal or my family. So I was actively looking for it, and luckily people gave me a book which was written by a Palestinian in Hebrew, which didn't have any narrative, but just had snippets of action by the Israeli military, where they massacred Palestinians, basically about the Nakba and the military rule that followed after the Nakba. And I read it back to back within a night, and in the morning I was an anti-Zionist because I realized that my whole life, everything about my life was at the expense of other people who've been expelled from their homeland, and that my life was still benefiting from them having everything that they had taken away from them.
And what to come to that conclusion, as you say, it's very interesting. You read it in a night, and then you totally transformed. I mean, how did that change your relationship with, say, your family and your friends and all the people you knew? I mean, when you saw this, did you try to convince them, and what was their response to it?
Yes, of course. I thought everybody would react like I did. So I did confront my friends. I had plenty of friends. And the responses were, so what if I'm a racist? I was so shocked. I still have the vivid memory of a particular incident where we were going downstairs in a building while this friend, she was shouting to me, so what if I'm racist? And it didn't work out very well with my own family either. My father called me a terrorist. And we had a matching shout for some years, and I kept telling him that Israel was not satisfied with occupying the land that it already occupied in the early 70s, because we're talking about I became anti-Zionist in November 1972. And so I said to my parents that Israel also intending to occupy Lebanon. So when in 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon with maps with Hebrew names of Lebanese cities and towns. My father was absolutely outraged, and he completely changed. And since then, he was my biggest supporter.
Well, that's good to know. But obviously, you felt a bit on your own for quite a while with the.
For sure, she felt on her own. And at her father's funeral, when she mentioned that her father supported the Palestinians, people turned their back on the casket. Wow. I don't, there's no debate. We can debate and debate and debate and debate this issue as it has been debated forever, for decades and decades and decades. What is happening right now, there is no longer a debate. What is happening right now is clear genocide of a people. We are living a time of such evil that it's stunning. It's shocking to see people just go about their business like nothing is happening. Talk about history repeating. Different teams, different players, but history repeating. We don't learn. So, well, this is what can't stand Amy Goodman, but Dr. Mads Gilbert, he's talking about what's going on in the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza.
If I should choose today between hell and Shifa, I would choose hell. I got a report.
He said, if I had to choose between hell and Al-Shifa Hospital, I would choose hell.
yesterday from the Minister of Health that 20 out of the 23 ICU patients had died. 17 other patients died because of lack of supplies, oxygen, and water. And 3, if not 5, of the 38 premature newborns have died because of this slow suffocation that Israeli occupation army is exposing all the hospitals to by cutting electricity, oxygen, and medical supplies. And it's beyond description. I'm out of words to describe this systematic man-made slaughtering of patients in civilian hospitals. And when I heard the crowd in the United States shout, no ceasefire, I think that's the only place on earth where people are supporting Israel. And the other streets of the world are supporting a ceasefire, a human solution, a lift of the siege, and a support for the people of Gaza. So this is a deeply divided world, and the lies are flying around like never before in any war. And I think we need to keep our heads and our hearts calm now and understand that what we are seeing is an unprecedented attack on a civilian society occupied by one of the most brutal and ruthless armies in the world, exercising a systematic attack on civilian healthcare completely against international law and the standards that we want to apply, and being back-patted all the time by the US president. I mean, we're in the darkest time of modern history now. So far, if you look at the UN numbers that are coming out every day in their fact sheets, 40,000 Palestinians have been killed or are missing under the rubble or have been injured for 4 weeks. 40,000, 6,000 of the killed and missing are children. When did that become defense of a country? When did it become decent to drag neonates out of their incubators and kill children? The only explanation for this is a deep-rooted and very frightening racism, because you don't do these things to people you consider your equal. I'm extremely disturbed. I'm extremely upset. And I blame the European leaders and your president for this bloody bloodshed of people who are being completely defenseless. And I talked to a colleague in Mustashfa Al-Aqsa in the south yesterday. He told me they were seeing influx of patients coming walking from the north, having followed the Israeli command to leave the north, and they were being shot in the legs, and they were treating gunshots in the legs from people trying to escape the north. 40%
Dr. Gilbert, I wanted to ask you what
Okay, if you want to listen to the full interview, that doctor has worked at Al-Shifa Hospital. He has posted videos on saying, never have I seen any Hamas soldiers in the hospital. No one ever talked about tunnels or a headquarters underneath the hospital. So, and Israel's free speech crackdown. War inside of a war. When we have war, it's not good for the team who seems to be very righteous about the war. It's not good for the citizens of the country, because the government who's attacking the so-called terrorists are also attacking the citizens of the country they claim to be protecting. Israel's free speech crackdown. 21-year-old computer science student was beamed into the small wood-paneled courtroom from jail via a video link. She had dark circles under her eyes after 11 nights in detention. Rita Morad, a Palestinian citizen of Israel, deemed to be one of them. Her alleged crimes of identifying with a terrorist organization and incitement to terrorism centered on 3 Instagram posts that she shared on October 7, when Hamas militants rampaged through communities in southern Israel. Whether now Microsoft or what is this, MSN, is writing the article about a Palestinian Israeli. There are Israeli Arabs who posted on Instagram. And what the article says is, in normal times, such posts wouldn't even warrant a trip to the police station. But these aren't normal times. And whether you are an Israeli Arab or an Israeli Jew, the crackdown on writing anything that supports Palestinians, that talks against the Israeli government, it's happening. It's happening. So, you know, and yeah, these kids are being put in jail.
The army that we have in this country is the operational wing of Jewish supremacy in the area, and it's bent on the oppression of the Palestinian people. And I refuse to take part in that oppression and instead fight against it in my activism.
I cannot take part in something that is so immoral, that is so unjust. This is genocide that has been going on since the beginning of the Zionism.
I don't wish to serve an army that is enacting an occupation, an apartheid regime.
Hamas attack was horrible. The whole country is in grief right now.
I do not think that it is in a vacuum. I see that the occupation and the closing of Gaza are the main parts that made this.
Now, this war in the first day was a defensive war, but after that it became totally an offensive war against the civilians in Gaza. I refuse the notion that killing civilians in Gaza will bring security to anyone.
For the Israelis, anti-Zionists, we are really in a problem right now because the fascization of Israel has gone into a new stage. We're scared of the government, we're scared of the army, of the police. We cannot go into the streets, the media is suppressing us.
And I'm also very scared now for my friends in the West Bank who are being evicted, violently evicted from their homes. I'm scared for the people of Gaza who are being bombed relentlessly. I think Palestinians deserve freedom just as much as Israelis.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? Yeah. And a whole lot of leaders in other countries are really coming out pretty hard against Israel and against the United States. I don't know if you're noticing that, but a whole lot are coming out saying things rather harshly because there's no separation between the United States and the Israeli government. I believe that they want attacks from other countries. I think this is maybe part of the staged operation that they have got going, the false flags, you know, to bring in the new world order with one world government, because governments are just going crazy, killing people all over the place, and it's got to stop. Turn your sovereignty over to one organization. That organization that was actually established for peace, the United Nations. And this is President Lula of Brazil.
Eu nunca tinha sabido de notícias de que crianças fossem vítimas preferenciais numa guerra. A quantidade de mulheres e de crianças que já morreram e a quantidade de crianças desaparecidas, a gente não tem conhecimento em outra guerra. Nessa guerra, sabe, depois do ato provocado, e eu digo ato de terrorismo do Hamas, que provocou um ato, as consequências da solução do Estado de Israel é tão grave quanto foi a do Hamas, porque eles estão matando inocentes, sabe? sem nenhum critério. Sem nenhum critério. Sabe, joga bomba onde tem criança, onde tem hospital, a pretexto de que um terrorista está lá, não tem explicação. Primeiro vamos salvar as crianças, as mulheres, aí depois faz a briga com quem quiser fazer.
Well, that's good. And Germany also just destroyed free speech.
Like most well-named bills, it's usually more terrifying than it sounds. The German government now says that they need laws to protect against anti-Semitism and extremism, so they are extremely controlling speech and threatening to arrest anyone who is critical of Israel. Now, obviously, what they say is they're trying to catch anyone who is an Islamic extremist, and they can do that if you are criticizing Israel. So this becomes a dragnet for legitimate speech in the name of anti-Semitism. This act has been in the works for more than 2 years, but now German politicians are saying we need it fast and we need it now. They're trying to push it through, given the war in Israel. This is German Interior Minister Nancy Faeser saying we need this law to protect Jewish people because everyone knows that the way to stop anti-Semitism is to make it illegal, right? When has that ever worked? It's worth noting that anti-Semitic attacks are illegal. They absolutely shouldn't be happening, but you don't need an extra law to make that illegal to graffiti people's property or assault people or threaten churches. Those behaviors already are illegal, but should the expression of any related belief be too? Now, there is an expression in Europe that when Germany breathes, the rest of Europe gets pneumonia. And as someone who is an expat living in Europe, I am extremely bothered that this kind of speech pneumonia may continue to spread throughout Europe. We already see echoes of it in France as well. And worse, again, what counts as anti-Semitism right now, we spoke about this last week with Ramzi Baroud, is that the criminalizing this belief is acting as a dragnet for legitimate concerns about the lives of Palestinian people. We found a report about a protest that happened over the weekend in Germany. Watch how protesters have to dance around the peaceful protests that they're making in order to not violate what now is illegal. Watch.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
It was billed as a free speech demonstration for Palestinians, but it turned out to be one of the biggest pro-Palestinian rallies in Germany since the October 7 terror attacks. Thousands turned out to defend free speech and protest against the bombardment of Gaza.
No one deserves to suffer like that. No country deserves to be destroyed.
Some blamed Israel without mentioning Hamas.
Who's the occupying power? That's it, isn't it? Who's...
Yeah, well, okay, but, a whole lot of people are still believing that this all started October 7, and it did not. It did not. It's been going on for many, many decades. And with the blockade, what was that? I want to say 2006. I think that might be too early. Israel pretty much controlling everything in the Gaza Strip. You leave people to suffer life, and you pay consequences for it. It's simple. It's not complicated.
Juliette Touma, she is the Director of Communications for UNRWA. UNRWA, the UN Palestine Refugees Agency. She joins us now from Amman in Jordan. Juliette, we've been covering this fuel crisis for weeks. I know UNRWA has been leading the charge here. Can you give us a sense of the scale here? That the numbers really don't quite do it justice.
I mean, yes, there are many numbers. I think the number that should stay with all of us is that more than 70% of the population in Gaza were forced to flee their homes, 70%. And as a result, now we have hundreds of thousands of people who have sought refuge in our shelters. Our shelters are overcrowded. We do not have enough supplies or the capacity to deliver assistance to that huge of a number. And we also do not have fuel.
Juliet, so with no access, though, this fuel is not meant for your operations. It's not meant for hospitals. What difference will this fuel actually make?
Good question. Not much. That fuel was conditioned. The use of that fuel was conditioned by the Israeli authorities. A very small delivery of fuel, I don't remember the figure that you used, but it's the equivalent of half a truck, right? I mean, it's not much. We can use that fuel for 2 days to go to the borders, pick up the supplies, put them in a warehouse. We're not even able to distribute those supplies or use the fuel for medical facilities or other parts of our humanitarian operation.
Is there the hope, Juliet, that even with the small amount that's gone in, that this might be the beginning of more? I know obviously Israel had a complete opposition to any fuel at all. Now that they're allowing some in, could there be room for negotiation for more, given that the fact that this will basically make no differences at all, as you just described?
Look, every gesture is welcome, but is it enough? It's by far not enough. It's like the conversation you and I had when those trucks of supplies started coming into the Gaza Strip. We call them a drop in the ocean. So no, it's not enough. It's not enough. And fuel should not be used as a weapon of war. And organizations like the organization where I work, like UNRWA, should not be begging for fuel because we need it for our humanitarian operation. It's very, very simple.
There are international...
Yeah, and they also cut off the internet again to those in the Gaza Strip. I can't even play this. IDF soldiers laughing about murdering the people of Gaza. All the detergent in the world can't make you clean. I don't know. This is a frightening mindset that once you hear it, it's hard to replay it. Once you hear it, it's hard to replay it. And here, this is why a whole lot of people really can't stand Americans. These are the people who represent us. You cannot separate that out. Sorry.
The calls for a ceasefire are outrageous.
Alright, that's enough. That's all you have to hear. Evangelical Christian, bring it on. I know, it's the prophecy. Bring it on. Let man bring it on. No, wait, isn't God supposed to be doing all of this? No. We can force it. We can force our will. Fuck.
We're outside the DNC. We're outside the Democratic Party headquarters because this party claims to be on the side of life and peace and equality. And we're saying that we want them to live up to their values and oppose this horrific war and call for a ceasefire now. And we're being responded to by the police shoving anti-war activists down the stairs, shoving peaceful protesters back with their bikes. And because our party that 80% of us want a ceasefire, would rather beat up protesters.
Hold on, to be continued. One second.
Outside the DNC headquarters. History will judge us on how we act now. Yeah, there's so much hostilities, not just those who are conducting operations in the war, but those just on the street.
Gaza ghetto strip. My family fought Hitler, not like you Zionist cowards. Oh, no, I'm not full of shit. You are a racist. Children are being murdered. You stand here and opportunistically hand out flyers to people who would renounce you anyway. You know it's true. You're a fascist and a genocide monster. You don't believe that all life is equal. You hate democracy. You hate that in America we're all equal citizens. Go to hell.
Yeah. It's now obvious the Zionists own the U.S. government. I don't think it's obvious. U.S. government owns the Zionist government. The Jesuits use the Zionists for their own ends. So, yeah, I mean, it's not, there's an awful lot of secret people working together to bring about this madness. Kill off an awful lot of us. Protests in D.C. turned violent. This is the members of Congress evacuated from the DNC headquarters. And this was like a week ago. But these protests are huge. Huge.
Palestinian to understand that the slaughter of almost 5,000 children is unacceptable and a war crime.
Now is the moment for the world to take action against the genocide of Palestinians. Youth, media workers, everyone is taking part in this global shutdown today through walkouts, sit-ins, speak out.
Women, men, children are walking around with open wounds because the hospitals are overflowing. And we are going to set up a sustained campaign of pressure in labor, in media, in every aspect of the education and social life to demand a total anti-normalization of Zionism.
Do we know what China says about all of this? Yes. They have spoken up at the United Nations, and they are calling for a ceasefire. They also have been talking about the war crimes being committed. This is another bridge that pro-Palestinian demonstrators had shut down, a commuter bridge in Montreal. When leftists are triggered, everyone has to suffer. I'm so tired. Oh my God, the framing. It's either the left or the right, the divide and conquer. It can't be that people... I'm not a leftist. I am not a leftist. I'd like to see a ceasefire. I'd like to see Palestinians finally free to live their lives. I'm not a leftist. They should really be ashamed. These so-called independent, that's rebel news. not so independent, so mainstream media on this issue. Yeah, the fraud operation busted in Massachusetts. Oh God, video shows Democrat scouring mailbox for ballots. Well, and here they have shut down the communication blackout in Gaza. Not sure if it's still continuing, but they did it again.
We managed to connect with one resident, Afaf Al-Najjar, who is in the south of Gaza Strip. Afaf, thank you so much for joining us here on the stream today. Can I start by asking you, after over a month of chaos and destruction all around you, just how are you doing?
I have just been texting some of my friends on Instagram and WhatsApp, my friends who are not in the Gaza Strip at the moment, telling them that I almost forgot who I am, and I almost forgot how my life used to be before the aggression on the Gaza Strip started. I was just telling them that I don't want to reach to the point where I'm used to what's happening, where I wake up every day with the thought that, oh, this is never going to end. I think that I've been trying my best to stay well put together and keep my strength and my energy and everything. But today, especially today, after everything that has been happening for about a month now, more than a month now, and after seeing multiple members of my family getting killed in the airstrikes, and after losing so many friends, I can really say that I'm about to lose it, honestly.
You said you've been messaging friends outside of Gaza. How important is it to keep that connection alive right now?
Staying connected is crucial. It's very important. When the connection was cut off from the Gaza Strip, it was cut off twice completely. Also, let alone the fact that it's very weak right now, but when it was cut off completely, I remember that I felt like I was in an open air grave. I swear to God, it almost felt like someone has dug up a grave for me and told me to just stay there. You know, I felt like my hands were tied, my mouth was shut, and that there's nothing I can do anymore.
Wow. You know what I find very interesting? Christians can criticize other religions, but God forbid you criticize the Christians. Yeah. Ah, you deleted your own comment, but you wrote it. So, that isolation, about to lose it, that's what I'm feeling. I feel trapped in a corner, and I've become paralyzed, and I can't stand it. Whole lot of damage is done by people who lie, who cause drama, who claim someone did something when they didn't. And when that happens over and over again, you don't know who to trust. So, is it important to bring your best mature self to all of what we are living? Yeah. Is it really important to live honestly and speak honestly? Yeah. Does that mean dishing out whatever you're thinking about other people? No. Thank you for showing up. Hope to see you tomorrow. Good night and good luck. Ciao, guys.